Welcome to the Women of Ihsan podcast. I'm your host, Sofia, and this is an invitation to join me and our amazing guests to find inspiration and insights into your own journey to Ihsan. If you ever feel overwhelmed or confused along the way, I'm also here to support you so you can tackle your challenges with confidence and make progress towards this lofty goal. To find out more about my work, check the episode description and make sure to subscribe.
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Bismillah wa salat wa salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome to a new episode of the Women of Ihsan podcast. My guest today is Saffana, who's a freelance copywriter based in London. She also teaches how language impacts us and spent a decade working in media, marketing, and communications. She combines this experience with storytelling to give words to our lived experience with how we perceive media and advertising. I'm super excited to have Saffana today. As I was just speaking with her before the recording started, I found out about her via shared clips from her TikTok, where she's actually teaching us how human psychology works and the power of words. And I was really fascinated by her demonstration. So, Safana, thanks again for making the time today and welcome again. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So please tell us more about yourself, share about your background and what you do today.
Oh, big questions. So, more about myself. I'm now a copywriter. I originally actually am a mathematician, so I studied maths at uni. You were saying before the school we were chatting, you said you like to connect the dots. That's what maths is, really and truly. It's spotting a pattern and then putting a theory to it and then applying it. So within that, I have like this thirst for knowledge, you can say, which is what maths teaches you, is that you can kind of be inundated with knowledge and make your way through it. And that's the approach I took to lots of things throughout my career, alhamdulillah. Amongst that, obviously, I was raised by teachers, which is a thing I'm really proud of. I'm like reverse proud of my parents for being teachers, if that makes sense. Allahumma barik. Both of them have had a huge impact in my life because, again, they're both teachers. So that's the vibe I grew up in, really. I'm a mathematician person, raised by two people who encourage a quest for knowledge, really. That's what made me. And then after doing maths at uni, I worked in sales, I worked in marketing, I worked in media. And all of that just led me to try my best to connect the dots of how all of this stuff works. Like, how does it work that you see stuff that I don't see stuff? How does it work that people use certain words or terms or platforms to reach you versus like me versus my dad? How did that happen, right? How do you own a thing? How do you know a thing? How do you think a thing different to me, outside of your control? Like, how has someone controlled that? Because again, I was paid to do that. I was paid to figure out who you are, the things that would trigger you, where your eyeballs are, where your attention is. And then after that, my job was to figure out the language that triggers you, that makes you act, that makes you do stuff. So I've been just combining this knowledge, which ends up in a very beautiful art of copywriting, which can be used for good and evil. Some may say copywriting is the other side of like journalism. Many journalists become copywriters, many copywriters become journalists, etc. Because it's the same set of skills. It's really figuring out who the person is, what triggers them in terms of words, then using words to make them think a thing or believe a thing or do a thing, which is different to like stories in general, but you can use stories in it. I think that was like a complex way of saying I'm just endlessly intrigued by human behavior. And I've spent
It's fascinating.
it really, we are, subhanallah. So so we are full stop, full sentence. So I hope that's context as to who I am and why I am who I am.
Yeah, definitely. But just a bit curious myself.
Yeah.
What are your parents teaching? What were they
Um,
teaching?
good question. So one of them actually teaches Arabic language.
Oh, mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah. And the other one taught maths and physics.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And a bit of Islamic studies, to be fair.
That gives you also this logical mind, isn't it?
Yes. SubhanAllah, but I think also like having seen people like develop, some people just are some ways inclined. I think I just like to work things out. And that's I think I took that from my father. Like I just really like to break things down. That's the only way I understand things, really and truly. Simplify
Mm.
them to their simplest parts, just a simple mind, and then put it back together and go, I see now. So yeah, alhamdulillah. It's yeah. But again, I've done nothing to earn this. This is just the cards I was dealt. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Is there a personal story that you could share with us?
This was years ago, like a long, long time ago. And I've always had it in the back of my mind that sometimes we don't know our flaws. Like we don't know, we're not aware, but it just takes someone to say it sometimes in usually a supportive way or in a roundabout way for you to go, oh yeah. So this was probably more than a decade ago. I was just in my mother's house and I was doing the washing up and very normal stuff, nothing exciting. And then at some point I was just like, oh, I'm a bit bored of this. So I just stopped doing the washing up. And my mother's just saw this. She didn't say anything too forcefully. She was like, why did you stop doing the washing up? And I said, I don't know, I thought I'll just come back to it later. I've just been doing it for a while, so I'll just come back to it later. To which she said, it's odd that you wouldn't just do it all in one go. It's odd that you would just give up almost at the end. And that's all she said. She didn't like force me to go back to it. She just went, it's just odd that you would choose to do that. She was like, you've almost completed your ajr. Like she said all in Arabic. She was like, you're so close to completing your ajr. I don't know why you would give up. And again, it's because she didn't say it forcefully. It was just like inquisitive. And again, that's the way we were raised. Like there's not much force in our lives. It's very, you know. And then I've honestly been thinking about that phrase for probably the best part of 15 years. It's helped me in completing my ajr, as she says, like akamil ajri, in like I'm being serious, like from deadlines at uni to I chose to run my own marathon many years ago or a couple of years ago now. Like things like that, where it's like, what's the justification? Why wouldn't you just finish it? Because that's so much better. Because I had no good reason as to why I stopped. I was like, I don't know why I stopped. She was like, yeah, just consider it, think about it. Why wouldn't you complete your ajr? So now I try and complete my ajr wherever possible. And it was only because of that situation.
Oh, that's amazing, I want to say, because just random, mundane things happening, and then this one sentence that stayed with you and actually became kind of a mantra for you.
Yeah.
Now that I'm close to the end, I have to finish it.
Why not? What's the justification for not?
Yeah.
Like tiredness, I don't know if it counts a lot of the time. Like that's the thing, I think. And people recreate this in loads of ways. And I've heard it rehashed in so many ways. And again, I think maybe because I run a lot. There's this thing of like, who are you in the last 200 meters? That's who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was like, that's completing ajr. Like, who are you when you are tired and you're almost completing a task? Like you're at deadline, you're at whatever, you can do the extra bit, you can do the tiny, who are you then? And it's made me, I believe it's been like a nice little edge to most of the things I do in my life, alhamdulillah.
Oh, mashallah. Hey, you see, you found that story.
Yeah. I once shared that in a job interview, but I don't think it landed because I don't think they understood what ajr meant. So I was like, yeah, here you go. There you go, Sally. So I hope
Well,
this is a better
it
audience.
definitely landed with me, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to, to think about it. Some food for thought, So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that with us. Are there any problems, we all have our challenges that you had to overcome, and what are the lessons that you were able to draw from them?
Um, if I'm being really honest in answering this question, I the hand again, I think I've said this, but the hands I've been dealt, like the cards I've been dealt, I don't know how you say that. Um, I'm it's difficult for in hindsight specifically, it's difficult for many things to be perceived as challenges rather than blessings. Like
Mhm.
it really Allah's really looking out for me is the only way I can say it. And uh there's loads of things I think I could paint as like it was really difficult, blah blah blah. But after you go through it, you're like, I don't know. I don't know how it would have happened any other way. Like I don't know how I could perceive a negative from that. Like, yes, it made me struggle at the time. Yes, it was difficult to overcome, quote unquote, difficult to overcome because it makes you grow by definition.
Mhm.
Um, but it's difficult to see it as a negative. I just want to say that. Like, it's difficult for me to perceive lots of my experiences as negative, purely because when you come out of it, it's you go, I like after maybe sometimes afterwards, after the dust settles, and sometimes maybe we don't even see it in the dunya, but you go, I see. So you just have to have fun. I don't know. I try to be like, yeah, this is bigger than me, and alhamdulillah. I try to, anyways, obviously. Okay, so the question is, are there any challenges? You know what? Motherhood is really big.
I agree.
Yeah. Motherhood is 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 hard. Is hard because it's relentless. Um, there's no pause, there's no reprieve, there's no like you can create artificial gaps where you get support. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Like Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You're able to do that. But it is just very, very, very difficult. It's very demanding. And it's sometimes I'm willing to say like it's not even the demands of the child, especially after a certain like age where they're like, oh, okay, we'll just have some grace, some back and forth, have some jokes, we'll have some, you know what I mean? Like they become subhanallah like humans who are empathetic and sympathetic and give you grace and give you space. I think actually it's the stuff that comes on top of that. Like I think it's because you're doing this chaotic, um, trying to maintain a life and support it and give it and all of this wonderful stuff. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And then everyone's just like, and then also don't forget this other stuff that you've been doing. So it's not even like you can just do the full time this thing. Does that make sense? And forego the other. People go, oh, don't worry about it. She's a mum. Like she'll be late. She'll be like you'd think in theory because it's been done time and time again. People are like, oh, don't worry. But actually, you don't get that. It's very rare to get that. People still have the high expectation. People still perceive that you'll crack on as usual, and I think that's the bit. That's the bit that's really challenging. It's that. It's if I'm being honest, it's not even so much the kid. It's the stuff around the kid that we must maintain to a higher standard, if not better, with the kid now that we're older. And just to be expected to be like, yeah, no, every day is easy or something. But it's not. It's really hard. It's really hard. Yeah. So that's what I'd say. It's a challenge. And again, I cannot even be more grateful for the challenge and the opportunity, not even the challenge. It's genuinely an opportunity. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. But it's all really, really difficult. It's much harder than work, much harder than running for hours. It's much harder than any physical activity I've done. Yeah, it's the hardest thing I've done. So Allahu Alam.
Yeah, I also agree. There are few dimensions to that. I think when I think about it, what's difficult is knowing that your responsibility towards them, you're going to be judged
Absolutely.
about that. They push you to your limits, and beyond
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
beyond and beyond.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
They hold a mirror to you so that you can't hide anything. It's
It's
just,
really a clear mirror. There's
yeah.
no smudges. Don't even. Yeah,
Either you
mashallah.
like what you see, or if you don't like it, then it's on you. It's
Yeah,
no one's fault. And yeah, it's just, I also think they are a great blessing and make
alhamdulillah.
us grow so much if we are willing
Alhamdulillah.
to.
Yeah,
So alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah for them.
yeah, alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, we even get to have that perception because I feel like this is the thing with kids, or this is the thing I think with childbirth in general. When you hear like the childbirth is declining and stuff like that, and you're like, if you didn't perceive it as a blessing, it the only logical conclusion is that this is the hardest, most thankless job. You go, if you don't perceive it as a blessing, then it's genuinely like a terrible job description.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, when you look at your child, especially when they are still so young and so cute, and
Yeah, yeah,
and
it's indescribable.
and just their look and their hugs, and even when they get bigger, just having them smile at you and hug you, and I mean, it's priceless.
Subhanallah. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So to
Alhamdulillah.
compensate for and just having this kind of company, just not being
Alhamdulillah.
alone, and so alhamdulillah, may Allah bless all of us with pious children, inshallah.
Ameen. Ameen.
In all of this experience that you had, I can hear that faith has been playing a huge role. Um, in to which extent did it help you overcome any situation you were in, or how did it shape your perspective on the world? Like what you've just said now about
Mm.
being a mother or being a parent, that because we look at it through this lens, that it is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, versus someone who would just think, oh, it's just, you know, someone I need to take care of,
Yeah.
more expenses, less free time, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, show me the positives. Is what you'd say. SubhanAllah. You know what? If I'm being honest, the older I get, the more I lean on my faith. Like I wish I'd lent on it more. Um, Allahu alam. Like again, Allahu alam. All of this happens through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I was supposed to lean on it when I leaned on it. But
How does that look like, leaning on your faith?
like seeing it through a bigger lens than just, oh, then this happened, and like seeing it through something bigger or better or wider than just objectively this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. And I must then do this. Like it's not a tit for tat. Like there's a wider plan, there's a wider everything, there's a reason, there's an order, there's a law, does that make sense? Like everything is
Yeah.
hikmah. And I think I don't know, maybe I didn't perceive that, or I didn't register just how expansive and impactful that is as a notion, and how genuinely like supportive and reassuring. Like so when stuff happens, anything, like, and I'm talking anything from like a migraine to a wedding, right? Like I'm talking anything. You go, this is what was supposed to happen. Like this is the yeah. And all hardship becomes necessarily a means to something. All, you know what I mean? All lessons are there to be learnt. It's all everything. It impacts everything. I don't I pray anyways that I don't lose that, like not even reassurance, but just that perception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think, but again, the older I get, or the more I do stuff, the more I see stuff, the more I'm like, alhamdulillah, I have Islam to guide me through it. I mean, we could go anecdotal, like, and also I'm so aware that like I'm saying this in a really like it's just some gal based in London, like, and you have to know it's not like endorsed in like office culture to be like, yeah, but God said so. So you just have to like maneuver around it quite well. So this is maybe like anecdotally how it's perceived. So years ago, just you'll know just how many years ago when I say this, but I was working in an office and then it was Friday afternoon and I said, all right, gang, inshallah. It took me years to be comfortable with saying inshallah out loud in a London-based office. Anyways, so I was like, inshallah, I'll see you Monday. And someone called me out on it for the first time in my team. And I didn't expect it. They were like, I know that inshallah means God willing, but how come you say this like, we're going to see you on Monday. And I went, and I literally said,
can you sign me a paper on that?
So I said, you don't know that.
Yeah.
I literally said, I don't know that, and you don't know that. And so here's the, and again, that was the first time I've ever been called out on it. That Friday was the last Friday before the pandemic lockdown. I have never seen that person in real life since.
SubhanAllah.
Not once. Like through life, I had like I ended up being pregnant. I went on mat leave. They had left the company in the time I was on mat leave. Then they moved up north. Then I moved. And I used to see this person I used to sit next to them every single day. And that was their response that one Friday. They were like, but you'll see. And I was like, no, you don't. And that was the last thing I said to them in real life is you don't know. Yeah. So it's stuff like that where you're just like, of course it's a small coincidence, but then they start piling up one on top of the other. And then you go, alhamdulillah. Like, alhamdulillah, we just have that perspective. Because you know what I mean? Like in all situations, I don't know why there's balloons. But in all situations, you get to just have a slightly different lens, like a slightly different you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just, and it's helpful. It's all of this stuff, as I imagine any lens of spirituality or faith is, to just put it in a slightly different perspective, bigger than yourself, inshallah.
Yeah.
More balloons.
Were there then at the time when you said earlier in your life you were not leaning on your faith as much? Is it because of maybe a misconception or any limiting belief that you had at the time and that were holding you back?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I think just so many balloons. I don't know if you're seeing these.
I see them, yeah.
Yeah. Just Zoom really loves my pondering on the questions. Yeah. If I'm going to be very honest, I fell for the notion, the Western notion that West knows best. That's probably it in a nutshell. Like if I'm being brutally honest to my previous self, I lent on scientific understanding, method, all of that. Like I told you, I was very logical. I still am, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. But I used to praise logic and science the way the West taught me to praise logic and science above all other realms of knowledge and understanding. That was definitely one thing. And again, that's like me literally just like fell for it. Like there's no other way to.
A lot of us,
right? So you go, fell
because this is how we grew up. This is 100%. What we've been fed with. So a lot of us, we fell for that. So how then did you make this transition? Did it happen in one time or was it progressively?
Yeah, progressively living life. 100%. Because they don't know. Like you don't know. You just don't know. Like I can give you 100,000, and even even the more you learn about like human behavior, let's say, just as a fundamental, the more you go, there's no scientific test that can tell you what's gonna happen here, right? There's just not like the scientific method is robust and you can apply it to loads of wonderful things, and you can say this is therefore what's going to. It's a wonderful application of like theory application. Like it's a wonderful thing when you apply it well, right? There's no doubt about it. But I think the lived experience of going through life and going, but you actually don't know. Like you can give me all the statistics and we can lean on it and we can ponder and we can theorize. but Allahu Alam is the end every single time. Every like it doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you record. It doesn't matter what you put pen to paper. It doesn't matter what you plan. It doesn't, like, in the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the more I grow up, the more I'm like, yeah, like, bro, you plan, but again, how do you know? Like, you know, I'm gonna see you on, bro. You don't. You had forecasts for 2019 and 2020. There were business forecasts. They looked spectacular on Excel sheets. I've seen them when they were destroyed. Now what? Like, it's, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so if you already had as a thing in your head, Allahu Alam, it makes it much more palpable. It makes it much more realistic. It makes it much more tangible, that life goes on, rather than like the scientific methods come to an end. What do we do? Yeah, but I thoroughly agree with you that we are taught to praise it to the point where actually other realms of knowledge are demonized. I would argue, you know, like knowledge of spirituality, knowledge of self, knowledge of all of this stuff, is often perceived as, or even called and labeled like backwards, or all of these other words that you, and again, I think it's that want to be included and liked as in school and uni, that you go, oh no, I don't I don't ascribe to the you know, the odd notion that I can't prove. I don't ascribe to a God necessarily 100,000% that I can't tangibly prove for you, unlike this Bunsen burner or whatever they were getting us to do. But then you grow up and then you go, what else is there? Well, I grew up anyways, and I thought, oh. But Allahu Alam. Yeah, Allahu Alam, where everyone's brain goes. That's just where mine went.
Yeah, indeed. So that was great explanation.
Cheers. Again, any explanation you like, because I was raised by teachers. I didn't do
Alhamdulillah. And as a copywriter, this is what you do now, right?
Yeah.
How would you like, how are you trying to have your Islamic values reflect on your work?
It's a really good question. It starts at the beginning, like with picking my clients. Because sometimes people have approached me, and I'm like, no, I can't in good conscience help you on your mission to do this. Like, you know what I mean? So alhamdulillah, again, as a freelancer, I'm able to do that. So that's first, and to be honest, that's the foremost. That's the biggest headline. Is that that's alhamdulillah, and alhamdulillah I'm able to do that, because I've worked in companies before where I'm just like, oh, I just won't work on that account, but it's still, you know.
Is it the reason why you decided to work as a freelance?
It's not a reason why, but it was definitely a motivator. Like alhamdulillah, it was a huge motivator, because again, I've worked in like global conglomerates, and they obviously, whatever money, like there's no moral compass, there's just a capital. So there's no moral compass. There's claims of a local moral compass sometimes, but if it doesn't move the needle, it's not there. So anyways, so after that I was like, I don't, so I was selective with my employer after that, but then afterwards I was like, even within these boundaries, I would prefer to choose who I support with my own time and efforts. And alhamdulillah, it's been nice. Like, it's been nice to just be like, yeah, sorry, can't help. But yeah, but also likewise, like after some of the videos that I did, some people just stopped working with me. So I was like, this is awesome, because like I vetted, you know, to the best of my ability. But then once you self-vet, like alhamdulillah, like that was a whole burden off of my,
Exactly.
you know what I mean, of my to-do list.
Yeah.
I was like, alhamdulillah,
there's some sorting out.
Yeah, it was a huge time saver. I was like, oh, alhamdulillah. And as a mom, every second is precious. So every second I'm giving you, I'm not giving to my daughter. So you really have to justify.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So yeah, that, and then yeah, generally like in my copywriting, the main like pillar is just like honesty. Like we're gonna lean on honesty, we're gonna lean on whatever it is, like the actual benefit. Um yeah, it's just a lot in like good faith. Carrying out business as a freelancer. So like rather than like the tactics that I would use, it's genuinely like as in like in my work, it's how is business conducted. I try my best, like contracts, how those are sent back and forth, like all of this stuff. Like there's just really sound Islamic principles that as a business person, I go, Alhamdulillah, I have this guide. And this is what I mean by like leaning on faith. Does that make sense? Like
Okay.
it's
It's your guide.
oh my gosh, alhamdulillah, I have it. Because otherwise, I don't know, I think I'd have to get an MBA or something. But like, but there it is ready to just be like everything transparent, everything above board, people's like everyone's aware, there's no swindling. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
very clear, and this is what constitutes as a contract, this is what, and you're like, what? Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's like a cheat sheet. So yeah, it's alhamdulillah been really good, really helpful to be a Muslim.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And I'm glad to hear that, because one of the misconceptions that we have is that when I start practicing, when I start maybe being more serious and getting more knowledge, this is going to make my life more complicated, and a huge misconception that we have.
Yeah.
And by asking this type of questions, I also want to expose that no, actually, it can be the opposite. It can make your life much more simpler. It can empower you. I mean, all the good stuff.
Alhamdulillah, honestly, alhamdulillah. Like sometimes to the point where I'm like, is someone just write this down, and then I'm like, they have done. Actually, that's how I learned. Like it's so alhamdulillah. I don't know how else to. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what it would be like to be lost in this situation. I really I get quite anxious for other people who are like guiding their way through like yeah, loads of scenarios to do with just like maybe let's say like business relationships. So how do you build them? How do you just stuff like that in business, let's say, or like in an office environment, or like what you owe to someone who is your client. What do you how do you conduct yourself when stuff is closing? How do you conduct yourself when things go wrong? And so this is like from a business perspective, but then other stuff, I'm like, if I didn't know that there was conduct at like how to knock at someone's door, I could have done anything. Anything goes. But if everyone agrees on like the etiquette of how to go into someone's home and the things you owe like a guest and what they owe you, I don't know, just, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's
The
outsourced.
blueprint. It's our blueprint for life.
Oh my God. It's yeah, subhanallah. And I didn't even know, to be honest with you, that was a misconception. But again, maybe because I grew up around teachers. So like I didn't know it was a misconception that people perceive that the more you know, the more difficult your life would be. For me, I've always been under the impression that the more I read, the more, and specifically about Islam, the easier it would be. And it's literally, it's not even just like theoretical. It's just like I just know what to do.
Yeah.
And I do it with conviction, which is very different. Even if I had ended up doing the same thing, it's very like I wish I could tell younger Saffana this specifically. It's like there's a difference with doing things with conviction and just doing things because you think it might be the right thing to do based on like surroundings.
Conviction and intention to get the reward.
Intention. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Yes, lit. It's so good. It's just yeah, alhamdulillah.
It's just the best. That's why.
Yeah,
that's why the
yeah.
West don't want that. It's not good for the profits.
Oh yeah, the moral high ground I always say is quite expensive. Like you do have to, in comparison to I mean, if money is your is your gauge of wealth, then it is expensive. But if it's not your gauge of wealth, it is a bargain.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So you've touched upon you've touched upon it, but are there anything else that you personally do to strive to become a woman of Ihsan? I know it sounds so, such a lofty goal, ihsan and
Um,
excellence, but we are
yeah,
just striving, we're just trying. Some days are good, some days are bad.
yeah. You know what it is I once I interviewed this girl long time ago, and she said one of the most liberating, I think this might also be verbatim the quote. She said one of the most liberating things in Islam is that our only job is to try our best. And I think when she just said it that simply, I was like, wow, yeah. Because it's that thing of what is written in like some really old mosques of like no fish is graded here by how well they can climb a tree or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like literally your only job is to try. Like there is like an ideal, you can say there is the lofty goal of ihsan, but you have to have that, because you have to have a certain amount of abstraction that goes with the reality of your life, so you know what to go for. And then the practicals are there so that they go, this is the way to reach it, like this is the methodology, and then this is the ideal. Like Islam is set up so that once you try your best, that is, you're done. That's it. So it sounds like a theoretical answer, but really it's very practical. Is and that in that in terms of ihsan, in terms of iman, in terms of all of this stuff, I literally the only bar I ever have is, did I try my best? That's it, because that's all I can give on one day. So yeah, and again it goes back to the washing up. Did I try my best? Like, did I? Well, do you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah,
sounds
and
trivial.
also the other aspect to that is you only compare yourself to yourself.
Best, yeah, alhamdulillah. And what a blessing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, again, it's the way she used the word liberating. She said that's the most liberating thing about, because that is liberation when I
Indeed.
don't have to yeah, it's that thing of, I can look at Instagram all day long, right? But then I'm not going to be like, oh, but her house is, I don't care, because for me, but I can understand how you would, I would, if I didn't perceive that my only job is to try my best. Like, does that make sense? And sometimes, obviously, I may fall for the booby trap of like, oh, but I need this thing instead of this thing. Of course, of course. But having studied the way that we see things and the reason we see things and the reason I see things over versus like my dad sees things, Islam is a very good um, methodology for doing justice at every turn, to yourself, to others, to your work, to literally to animals, bro. It's absurd. So then you just go, my only job at any point is to try my best, and I just pray that I am. Like, I just try my best, literally. Yeah, and again, like I say, it's for everything to have I given my daughter her rights the best I can? Have I like cleaned up the space to the point where it's safe to pray as much as I can? Have I made it comfortable for my guests as much as as much as I can? Not like to us, just as much as I can. And then so like I say, there's a framework, there's a methodology, there's an application, and then there's an assessment at the end where you go, my only job was to try my best.
Alhamdulillah.
That's it.
And if
Yeah,
we are lucky
alhamdulillah.
enough, we get another chance the next day.
Allah, yeah, Allahu alam. Listen, that's why you can only do now. Allahu alam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Subhanallah. Can you
alhamdulillah.
share with us some of the routines that you do on a regular basis that help you, stay on top of your game? I've heard and I've seen also on your Instagram that you've run a marathon.
Yeah, I ran a couple, alhamdulillah, at this point. Yeah,
Mashallah, mashallah. So you
alhamdulillah.
like running?
Yes, it was, yeah, I do. I do. I love it. I think it's gone from like to a love. And the reason
Ah,
I believe it's gone to a love is because I miss it like a friend when I can't do it. Like, I genuinely do. I at this point, I think I rely on it as well for like clarity. It's a good time to do so much stuff, and it's a good time for, thanks to my mum giving me this like brilliant hack. She was like, it's a really good time to do dhikr. She was like, I can't think of a better time. And I was like, wow, that's a good way of putting it. So it's holistically, it's been a cheat code to life. And I used to recommend it again, like crazy. I now know that it's not for everyone, but should it be for you, it's a wonderful tool for all of the Western benefits that they perceive of like, oh, it adds like discipline to your life and all of this stuff. But really the foundation is salah. Like that's the, like, if we're talking about like what routine helps the salah, like straight up, there's nothing will ever supersede. Like I just said wrong because you said, but there's, if you've got, yeah, for me anyways, I don't know. If salah's done, calm, you crack on. That's the routine. That's the only base routine. Really and truly. And then afterwards, I like to wake up before my family wakes up, is the truth. I like to do that. I like to have my day planned. Not even my day. I think that's almost a lie. I like to have my month planned. I like to also have the year planned in general in terms of goals. I like to tie my camel, basically, is the thing. I get a lot of like stability knowing that previous Saffana has said I can achieve this. So this is what I must do to achieve it. Yeah, so I spend time planning my week, my day. It's become more important as a mum because there's a lot of stuff to juggle, as you know. I don't know how people do life without planning it. Allahu alam. I couldn't do it. So yeah, it's not necessarily a routine, rather than once I've got salah done, some kind of movement, the regular stuff of like cleaning the house at all times when I can, then it's down to executing the plan that I planned the day before. Yeah, I'd say that's an accurate description.
Okay, and when you say executing the plan, is it your business plan, like just for your work, or also what happens in your private?
Okay. I wish I could. If you want to see, I can show you. Listen, I've got calendars on calendars. It's like, this is what I have to do so like your week will plan out. You've got this thing to do, this thing to do, this thing to do.
Amazing.
And you just have to write it down. It's time blocked. And then I need to do this thing to accomplish this thing. Right. So then there's the immediates. So, and then there's stuff like, I want to, for myself, the next step is to accomplish this thing, this thing, this. In order to do this, I need an hour this day, an hour this day. When can I fit it in? Okay, cool. Where do I need to be for childcare? Okay, fabulous. That's going to be travel time, etc., etc. So that's why I have to wake up before my family to do as much stuff as I can, and then I can do the other stuff. So
yeah. I like repeating this thing from, I think it's Benjamin Franklin, who said, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
I have to have a certain amount of like, this is the ideal day. Even if it doesn't go to plan, I just have to have a certain amount of it, of like, this would be good, this would be fantastic, this would be outstanding. But the good is yeah. And then obviously life makes other plans for you around you, and you just maneuver around that and say,
Yeah. At this stage, can you share with us what's your why, your vision? Maybe you have a passion project. How would you like to have an impact or leave a legacy?
Yeah. To be honest, I saw this question when you wrote it, and I don't know is the truth. Allahu A'lam. I honestly have no clue. I wish I had a clue. Like, I really wish I had a clue. But it's because the word legacy to me is so lofty, and when I consider legacy, like the people who I read about, people I'm like, wow, that's a legacy. It's so large that I'm like, I need to bring it like almost like down a peg. uh uh or like stagger it somehow, because Allahu Alam, I feel like some of that stuff is like almost out of our hands. It's so big, right? I wish I had something like, oh, um, yeah, I don't know if this is a cop-out answer, but like immediately what I would say is, if I can walk away from this dunya and the people who were closest to me um said she did right by me, and I'm talking like people who you see on a daily, like people who know you, right? Not like your reputation on road, which would be a wonderful like pro. I'm not anti anything to do with that, but I'm saying this is my minimum, is that if people who I interact with on a daily basis, who I owe rights to, like my family, my immediates, if they said that I did right by them at every turn, and I tried and I was there and I was supportive, I think Islamically I would be happy. Like I'd be like, that was my duty, because that's my duty. Everything else is like above. Does that make sense? So I
Yeah.
think
It's a
first and
bonus.
foremost, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So give the haqq.
Yeah.
That's like my first and foremost. That's, and I spend, if I'm gonna be honest with you, most of my time here. Like most of my time, right, is here. Then there's like another layer of like, okay, cool. So people who like business wise, people who've seen me, traveled with me, whatever it is, have done business with me. Have I given them like, am I doing right by them? Because then that will build its own reputation, right? And then after that, I can take some of that, give people what's left. Just which now looks like, listen, everyone, you're being taken for a ride with media, journalism, words, all of this stuff. So I can try and help you with that. Like I can try and educate you, because I know this thing. This is the one thing I know. Allahu Alam what that will look like in future. Allahu Alam what I will know and what I want to share, what's beneficial. Allahu Alam. But for now, that's what it is. So that's generally speaking like I don't know. I don't focus on the tippy top, because I perceive it as this, isn't it? I don't focus on this. Potentially, I probably should more, Allahu Alam. But this is not my priority every day, is what I would say. Maybe one day, inshallah, I will be. But for now, I would love.
That's good enough. That's a lot.
Inshallah.
It's already, I mean, if we can do right by our family, the people who are closest to us, our parents, I mean,
Right?
it's already a big achievement. And
Inshallah.
maybe because of all that's going on, we talk a lot about, impact, legacy, whatever. Sometimes we do neglect that, but
Yeah.
our first obligation is towards our closest family members. So I think it's a good reminder as well that before you go and, pursue these lofty goals and whatever it may be, and it might be really good, you first need to take care of your closest family members, because if
Yeah.
if they're not happy with you because you're too busy taking care of X, Y, or Z, then at the end of the day, you might get a surprise, but actually you were not focusing on the right stuff.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
Allahu
I
Alam.
think I think it's really important to refocus on that before we go and pursue X, Y, Z. Well, first, did you tick all the boxes that are a must for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's your like, again, that's your duty. Like, and I'm talking about just like purely Islamically, right?
That's what's your sorry. This is what you're going to be judged on.
Yeah, yeah. There's people who like again, you owe them, they owe
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So there's a you have
Accountability.
yeah, right. You have rights over them, they have rights over you.
Mm.
So yeah, the more I read, the more I'm like, no, I need to do that right. To like, I need to give that person that right. Like I do, like, and sometimes it's the other way around, where you're like, actually, I don't owe you that, right? And that in itself is liberating, where you go, I don't owe you that. There's a boundary here, and again, it's a wonderful thing to have pre-prescribed boundaries, because otherwise, you just just setting them willy-nilly based on TikTok. No, thank you. So
Yeah, that's also one of the things I like to highlight is having knowledge
yeah.
of
Oh,
what is actually due. What do you actually owe people? What do you owe yourself? What do you obviously your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
yeah.
Because it would save us a lot of trouble. We go into all of this cultural, expectations, whatever. No, we don't do that. And it has actually, if you don't do it, it has no consequences whatsoever because you didn't have to do that. So there's so many things going on that are actually wrong. But subhanallah, I mean, we need to learn, we need to seek knowledge
Inshallah. Like
because
this is
it's
the
so
one.
liberating again, because when you see, oh, actually, I don't need to do that. Like, I don't need to serve my in-laws. I'm not their, servant,
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
you know.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing to have something that helps you navigate real life challenges. Like genuine real life challenges. Yeah, I cannot stress it enough. Just no, like, and again, to me, this is to me again before anyone of just yeah. The more I know, the more I'm like, oh, alhamdulillah. Oh my gosh. Oh, alhamdulillah. Now I know what to do a bit more. And maybe there's yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone wouldn't like that. I can imagine that maybe someone wants to like no, but listen, Islam hack complete like life hack is the only way I can say it. Alhamdulillah, biggest life hack. Forget all those weird videos. This is the life hack you need. This is the yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, Allah alam. And also there's that thing of like the best among you is the best to your family or something like that. So
Yeah.
like can't be slept on. Like it cannot be
The
slept on.
the best of character as well.
Yes, there you
The
go,
best of
right?
character.
So and then you go there must be something in that. And then actually when you try and do it, like for example, being a good sister, it's very hard. Like it's like demanding. Like when we say like our children make us grow up, all of this stuff, I could have shortcut so much of it if I had like really done my level best to even understand the rights I owe to my siblings, right? Because you know what I
Subhanallah.
mean? It's stuff like that where I'm just like, again, it would, alhamdulillah, you know now, innit? But you go, that's actually very difficult. I can understand why that is a statement, is like the best character is the best to their family. Because you go, that is much more demanding. That's much harder in terms of every resource I have, every ounce of sabr I can conjure, right? Much more demanding than being cool on stage talking about.
Of course.
Do you know what I
Because
mean?
these are the people who know us best.
Yeah,
Like you
exactly.
can't fake it.
Absolutely.
They see through you, they know you,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely. And if I'm speaking really candidly, like we all know the people who do all of the things in the mosque and their kids are nowhere to be seen. And you're like, that's odd because we think you're awesome. So what are they seeing? That do you see what I mean? So then you go like, and again, this is no shade to anyone pursuing legacy. We need you to pursue legacy. Pursue it. I don't know if I'm at that standard. Maybe one day, inshallah, Allahu alam, I can be. But yeah, for now, I'm like, I gotta take care of my numero uno. It's because Allahu alam, yeah, because yeah, they're my ticket to Jannah or otherwise. So
no, I think it's good. It's really nice to hear that as well because, again, we get caught up in all of this. I have to have a goal. I have to achieve that and whatever. And then, so I'm not saying it happens all the time,
yeah,
but it can happen that then we neglect what's actually close to us. So I
100%.
think it's a amazing reminder for us. I mean, for me first. So Jazakallah khairan for sharing that. Because again, first things first. And then if you can do more, then Bismillah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
do more. Listen, we need you. We need you.
Exactly,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
And in one's life, I mean, you know that as well. We have different phases. Like when you've just have a baby, well, your priority, whether you like it or not, is your baby. You're not going to just, oh, okay, I just had this baby, yeah, take it, and then go back. No, it's not like that. You need to give this new human being time, and yeah, from your from yourself, literally from yourself.
Everything from yourself.
Everything. And obviously, it's not like when now the kid is, I don't know, 15, 20, they've become independent. They don't rely on you for everything.
Absolutely.
And then, okay, it's a new phase. You're like you've started a new, and that's why there's nothing is fixed. It's not linear. It's always changing. So we have to be flexible. We have to be willing to adapt to these changes.
Absolutely.
And
I
also,
strongly agree.
and also as we grow older, we're not the same.
Absolutely.
Even our psychology changes.
Completely.
So we also have to adapt to that. Our energy levels, and we're talking about energy in the beginning. Everything it changes. What you were able to do when you were 20 is not the same when you're 30, 40, 50, whatever. It's just going to change unless you are an exception. But I mean, but at the same time, physically, I would imagine that when we're young, we are full of energy and alhamdulillah, but then we don't have this experience and the wisdom that comes with it.
Exactly.
So it's all a matter of, like you said, we are dealt some cards, and it's also true, like the different phases of our lives, and we have to make the best out of it.
Yeah, that's your only job.
Yeah.
Like how liberating that's your only marker of success is your effort.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
How awesome.
Not even the outcome. The outcome, it's in Allah's hands.
It's not up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's قدر الله وما شاء فعل. It's literally not your business. It's almost literally not your business, huh?
Yeah.
And again, how liberating of a notion is that?
Yeah.
Because again, you could put on an Excel sheet, I could put it in my little remarkable, I could write it, I could do all of this stuff, but that's not my job. Like it's you see what I mean? My job is to try my best on that day, and Allahu Alam what's going to happen. I love that you've mentioned that our life goes in phases, because I know for a fact, if you would have asked me the question about legacy, maybe even 6 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. But I now know so much different stuff. It's not even more, I just know it differently. That's
exactly
it, right? The best way I can explain it. It's not even that I know a huge amount. It's just the things I used to know, I know differently now. I just know it on a different
perspective, maybe looking at it from another angle.
100%. Yeah. And again, I want to focus on like one word that you said, which I think differentiates this conversation from like maybe a conversation that you could have had in a secular perspective, where you said when you have a kid, that kid needs you, right? Even Islamically, that is the correct word. Need. They're in requirement of you. And again, the like Western understanding of this, you can do all of the tests, you can do all of the science, you can do all of the immunology, you could do all of the attachment theory, you could do all of this stuff. Or you could just go back to Islam and just be like, for the first 2 years, that's your like, you should probably be breastfeeding. Like, calm.
I agree with that.
Do you see what I mean?
Because it's like, what nature, I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created us like that.
But here's the thing. So let's say we know this from a passage somewhere that existed 1400 years ago. Immunologists are finding this out now, literally now.
Yeah, they're promoting that like the last, the last 10 years, 15 years, they've been promoting that.
And they're saying now, you know what the requirement is for good immunology? 2 years. 2 years. And you're like, what have I seen? So it's like, it's that thing my mom used to always say of just like, sometimes you ask people where their ear is and they say this.
Yeah.
Right? So
we say that as well in Moroccan.
Yeah. So my mom was like, why? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I could have done this, but I also now know I have the shortcut.
Well, the people, we don't have the visual, but it's basically where's your ear? And instead of going to, like, you have your right hand and you touch your right ear, then you go with your right hand around your head and go and touch your left ear. And this is like, this is what we were talking about. Yeah.
A roundabout way to get to the same conclusion. And then you go, cool. But yeah, so you go back to like, your kid needs you. And therefore, the reason that's significant is because Islam necessarily understands that who you are today is not who you will be tomorrow. Like, necessarily, that is the fundamental of it. So because it doesn't make sense that you are held to even the same standard you were held to last week, it doesn't make any sense that someone else is held to the same standard as yourself. So therefore, effort can be the only marker of success. Like it literally is like you must deduce this from this, from this, from this, because you cannot guarantee what you're able to do tomorrow. Like there's no way that you're able to.
Yeah, subhanallah,
So
subhanallah.
yeah, it's and then you go, yeah. So you ask me in 10 years, Allahu Alam, what the legacy answer will be. Like honestly, Allahu Alam. But for now, yeah, my only job is to do my job.
Yeah, mashallah. And that's enough. And that's if we just do.
God said it's enough.
Yeah.
The rest is irrelevant.
Yeah, indeed. As we're coming to close, I would like to ask you, is there anyone you would like to see on the podcast as a guest? And what question would you ask her?
Yeah. So it is actually my old kickboxing instructor. She's a lady called Khadija Safari. I don't know if I should be government naming her like that, but yeah, she is awesome. She taught me kickboxing maybe 15 years ago, something crazy like that, like years ago. And it was this little underground gym in West London. And she pursued that as a business the entire time, because that was like her, I believe that was them like starting up, and it was supposed to be women's only MMA, because she was a somewhat new convert at the time, revert, whatever you want to call it. And I believe she ran it with herself and her husband. He used to do the men's one and she did the women's one. Anyhow, she's been doing that ever since. And now she's like a business coach, because she pursued it for so long. And again, I cannot like emphasize how like underground this little gym was. It was really tiny. So if you would have seen it, it wouldn't have made any sense that the person who ran it was going to be a huge success until you met her. That's the only way I'd put it. That's the only way I'd put it. Anyways, so I interviewed her a long time ago, and she said this one phrase that has always stuck with me. She said, because at that point, I was going to a tournament that she was running for women's mixed martial arts in like a big venue. Okay. So, and this is like years after. So, and this is years ago now, maybe 5-6 years ago. Anyhow, she said, there's nothing special about me. I just chose not to give up. And I think about that all the time. Obviously, like the washing up. You go full circle.
Yes, we go full cycle now.
You could see. And
so there's a great lesson in that.
Yeah.
From your mom and from Khadija.
Yeah.
Do not give up.
Bro, you're not allowed to. Yeah. But it's awesome to see
the thing is, we can't even afford it.
Yes. You don't have that privilege. Motherhood's a good way to learn that lesson too. But yeah, subhanAllah. And she not even obviously, but she is a mum. Since then, she's become a mum. She has more than 1 or 2 kids, I believe, subhanAllah. And she's like, yeah, but the thing is it was not like an overnight success. Mm-hmm. It was a perseverance through every phase that you can imagine. And I'm in total awe, really, is this the, you know what I mean? Like, you just go, subhanAllah. And she chose the name Khadija on purpose, obviously, after she like converted or reverted. Yeah, and I feel like after meeting her, I was like, this makes sense. But if you didn't, you'd be like, this is odd. So yeah, I like hearing her talk. I'd love to hear.
Is there a specific question that you would like to ask her now in 2024?
The practicalities of doing what she did and being a mother, because that's really what she's teaching other people. And I think it's one of the more difficult things. And again, it's one of those things where like I've seen her kids at her stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like she brings they're part of the package. Mm-hmm. And as a Muslim woman looking at that, it's very inspiring. You're like, beautiful, subhanallah, because she's inspiring other women obviously to stay fit, and loads of them are moms, some of them are young, some of them are all of this like spectrum of stuff that you can imagine that MMA as a sport does for women, but as a visible Muslim woman. And her kids are there. And then you're just like, awesome, like just genuinely awesome. So I would love to hear her perspective. I would love to, yeah, that's my answer.
Amazing. Now, last question for you, Saffana. How can people find out more about you?
To be honest, after this podcast, there's lots here that you wouldn't have known from other places. So if you want to find out even more, you're gonna have to come to my mum's dining table, I'm afraid, at our family dinners.
I meant about, how to follow you on social media and so on.
Look up Saffana. I'm the only Saffana Monajed in the world, as far as I know. Yeah. So
great.
yeah. So if you don't find me, the way I say it, if you don't find me, it's on purpose. So I'm
If you
very
don't
hard.
get invited at your mom's table.
Legit. So just look up Saffana Monajed. You'll find all the things. I have a website that you can always send me an email. And you can find me on socials. Usually talking about like words and their impact and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's again, that's how I found out about you, and fascinating, amazing. So I will share the details with the audience if they want to reach out to you, maybe work with you, inshallah. And again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing all of these, these stories and, the great discussion, mashallah. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you did as well, and I hope the audience also enjoyed the discussion. And if you did, please show your support, because otherwise, I don't know if you liked it or not. Please like, comment, please share, subscribe to the podcast. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening from. It's also on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah, that would be great. And if you want to send me your questions, if you want to see someone, there's also an email. You can also email me there. Follow me on social media. Jazakallah khairan again, Saffana, for your time and for everything that you shared with us today. And salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.